The storm began without warning as the sky above Earth's western hemisphere turned gold with violent surges of alien energy. Satellites melted in orbit, communication systems collapsed. And on the ground, people looked up in terror as cracks of emerald lightning split the sky. The world didn't even have time to ask who attacked before the invaders arrived. The first contact came through a shimmering, tear-in reality. What stepped out was not a ship, but a being, a tall, glowing figure wrapped in golden robes with long horns, glittering skin, and eyes like stars. The humans watching it through drone feeds called her an angel at first. Then she raised her hand, and two nearby soldiers collapsed, screaming as their bodies turned to black dust. Within minutes, Earth's leaders realized she was not a messenger. She was a weapon. They called her the Untouched Princess in whispers that spread across bunkers and radio waves. Her presence was a death sentence. No one could come close without breaking apart like burning paper. Her skin radiated energy no armor could block. Scientists who tried to analyze her aura died in sealed labs. And still, she walked through battlefields with grace. Never speaking, never stopping, always deadly. The galaxy had warned Earth, long ago, in fragments of intercepted messages and ruins scattered through space. Never touch the Queen's daughter. No one understood what it meant until now. Entire armies were lost trying to capture her. Humans began to think she was a ghost or a curse, not someone real. But deep in a hidden lab under the Rocky Mountains, a young man named Kale prepared for something that no one believed possible. Kale was not a soldier. He wasn't a scientist either. He was a survivor of the Battle of Riot Gulf, where the princess had passed through and left every living thing dead, except him. They found him breathing beside a blackened crater, his clothes burned away but his body untouched. No radiation, no trauma. Just confusion in his eyes and a single word on his lips. Why? The moment the High Command learned about him, he was dragged into underground bunkers, tested, scanned, and almost dissected. When none of their machines could explain his survival, they stopped calling him lucky. They called him immune. He was the only human the princess couldn't kill. And that made him Earth's last chance. They built the chamber in silence, using glass stronger than metal and barriers laced with alien materials stolen from crashed ships. The room pulsed with quiet dread as the princess was let in, her golden form glowing softly under the sterile lights. She didn't resist. She simply stared at Kale, head tilted, her expression unreadable. It was the first time anyone had seen her pause. Kale stood frozen on his side of the barrier. His heart raced, his mouth dry. Every instinct told him to run, to hide, to scream. But something else stirred in him, a strange peace. Her presence didn't hurt. It didn't even scare him. It felt like standing near a living sun, and for the first time it didn't burn. He reached out his hand and placed it against the glass. She watched him for a long moment, then slowly lifted her own hand and pressed it to his. Their fingers aligned, divided only by a thin sheet of transparent energy. Around them, alarms stayed quiet. No one died, no fire erupted. And for the first time, the untouched princess moved without taking life. She leaned closer, her voice so soft it barely registered on the room's sensors. "You are not like them," she said. Her words were perfect, like music. Kale blinked, surprised she could speak. But he didn't reply. He didn't want to break the moment. She studied him with ancient eyes, and in that instant, she looked more curious than cruel. Somewhere behind thick metal walls, generals shouted into radios. Scientists screamed for scans and data. But inside the glass room, none of it mattered. Kale and the princess stood inches apart, their hands touching through the invisible shield. And in that impossible moment, the war paused. Asterisk for the first few seconds, Kale said nothing. The alien princess on the other side of the glass didn't move either. Her face was close to his, her golden eyes locked onto his. Neither of them blinked. Outside the chamber, voices shouted and red lights flashed through the tinted glass. But inside, the silence between them stayed unbroken. Then she spoke again. "You are not like the others," she said softly. Her voice was calm and deep. It didn't match her deadly image. Cale's fingers twitched against the glass. He had so many questions but didn't know which one to ask first. So he asked the one that had haunted him since Riot Gulf. "Why didn't you kill me?" She tilted her head slightly. Her sharp ears flicked. A slow breath escaped her lips. "Because I didn't want to," she replied. That answer hit Cale harder than any weapon. He expected something about DNA or fate or destiny. But the truth was stranger. She had chosen to spare him. He didn't know whether to feel lucky or cursed. Outside the chamber, General Hadley clenched his fists. "Pull her out," he barked to the techs. "It's too risky. One wrong move and this entire base goes up in light." The lead scientist, Dr. Elira Vaughn, stood firm. She hasn't attacked. "Look at her posture. She's not hostile." The argument was cut off as another voice came through the speaker. "Sir, look, she's reaching for something." All eyes turned back to the glass. Inside the chamber, the princess gently placed her other hand over her chest. "They made me like this," she whispered. "My skin is not mine. It's a curse my people gave me." Cale looked confused. "You mean you didn't choose this?" Her fingers curled into a small fist. "I was born to be a weapon. A walking plague. I never asked for it." For the first time, Cale felt sorry for her. She looked like a queen, a goddess, untouchable and powerful. But now she sounded like a prisoner. Someone trapped inside her own body. He stepped closer. "Then why attack us? Why kill?" Her eyes darkened. "Because they ordered me to. And because when I refused, they punished me by sending me here." "To your world," Cale stared. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. She was exiled. Not a leader, but a prisoner of war from her own empire. "You mean Earth isn't the target, it's the cage." The princess gave a small nod. "And you're the first thing in this cage that doesn't scream when I breathe." He felt a cold chill. And yet, it made perfect sense. Her people had used her as a living weapon and thrown her away when she no longer followed orders. Earth wasn't her battlefield. It was her punishment. The destruction she caused wasn't part of her plan. It was just a side effect of her curse. And now, standing in front of a human who could survive her touch, she was more confused than he was. "You didn't run," she said after a moment. "You should have run when you saw me." Cale smiled a little. "I think I've already died. Once, you just didn't finish the job." She blinked. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't fear. It was a strange joke. The kind humans used to deal with things they didn't understand. Her lips curved slightly. Not a full smile, but almost. Outside, the chamber's monitors picked up the change. "She's calming," one of the scientists said. "Her energy levels are dropping. The death field is shrinking." General Hadley cursed under his breath. "This doesn't make sense. Get him out of there." But Dr. Vaughn shook her head. "No, we keep watching." This is the first time she's ever been still. Back inside, the princess took one step forward. The glass didn't crack. No alarms rang. She looked directly into Cale's eyes and said, "What happens now?" Cale breathed in deeply. "I don't know, but maybe, just maybe, we figure it out together." Her golden glow pulsed brighter, not in anger, but in something else. Hope. Cale stood in silence, watching her as the golden glow from her body faded to a softer shade. He wasn't sure if it was real, or just his eyes adjusting to her presence. Either way, the room didn't melt. The air didn't crackle with death. For the first time, she looked almost normal. She turned and walked slowly to the edge of the chamber. Her feet didn't even make a sound. The sensors stayed quiet. No alarms. No lights. Just the soft humming of machines. Then she turned back to him and asked, Do you know what it's like to destroy everything you touch? Kale stepped forward but stopped himself from placing his hand on the glass again. No, he answered gently. But I know what it's like to survive something you shouldn't have. She studied him again. This time her gaze was softer, less calculating. You are different from the others, she whispered. Above them, a row of hidden cameras recorded every second. Behind thick walls, generals and advisors watched in tense silence. Dr. Vaughn leaned forward over the console. We are seeing active suppression of her field, she said. His presence is affecting her physiology in real time. She's changing right in front of us. The military staff didn't care about change. They cared about control. If she's weak, then now's the time to strike, barked General Hadley. But Vaughn shook her head. If we strike, we lose what we just gained. She's not a monster. She's a prisoner finally speaking to someone who listens. Let him keep talking. Back in the chamber, the princess raised her arms slightly and looked down at her own hands. Her glowing skin dimmed further. They told me I was a curse made flesh, she said. That my body would teach others fear. That love, touch, and closeness were never meant for me. Kale's hands curled into fists. At his side. That's not living. That's punishment. Her eyes glowed faintly as she stepped closer again. They called it purpose. I was trained to walk alone, speak little, kill without regret. But I regretted it every time. I just couldn't say it. No one would hear me without dying. Kale didn't move this time. He let her speak. He let her exist. Not as a weapon. Not as a threat. But as someone who had never been given a choice. And she seemed to notice. Why didn't you run when you saw what I was? She asked again. Because something in your eyes told me you weren't what they said, he replied. You were trying to scream, not destroy. You just didn't have anyone who could survive long enough to listen. Her breath caught in her throat. It was the first time she looked truly shaken. In the lab control room, Vaughn clutched her data pad. Her energy output is dropping again. This is stable. This is sustainable. She's syncing with him biologically. One of the assistants turned, eyes wide. You're saying he's adapting her, or she's adapting to him? Vaughn smiled for the first time in days. Maybe both. The princess lowered herself to the floor and sat cross-legged inside the chamber. I have never spoken this many words to anyone since I was exiled, she said. They feared my voice as much as my skin. Words bring emotion. Emotion weakens control. But with you, it feels like I'm breathing real air for the first time. Kale sat down too. They were only a few feet apart, separated by the glass. Then let's keep breathing, he said. Together, her head tilted slightly. She blinked twice, then reached behind her neck and unclipped a small glowing pendant. This is the anchor that controls the field, she said. If I remove it, and you still live, it means your immunity is not just luck. It's fate. The lights dimmed. Everyone watching held their breath. Kale nodded slowly. Do it, he said. Her fingers trembled only once before pulling the pendant free. A bright wave of golden light exploded outward, slamming against the glass. Kale stayed still, eyes open, waiting. The light faded. No damage, no burns, no alarms. He was alive, asterisk, when the wave of golden light vanished. Kale opened his eyes slowly. His hands were steady. His heartbeat was calm. He looked down at his arms, expecting burns or bruises, but his skin was untouched. Across the glass, the princess stared at him, her eyes wide with something close to wonder. She stood up slowly. The glow from her body now felt warm instead of dangerous. Her hair shimmered like sunlight through a golden river. She pressed her palm to the glass again. This time, there was no barrier field, no surge of power pushing him back. Kale did the same, their hands aligning without harm. In the observation room, alarms remained silent. Dr. Vaughn's team ran test after test, double-checking the readings. The pulse was absorbed, one whispered. His cells adapted. They didn't reject. The energy, they changed with it. Vaughn didn't respond. She was staring at the screen, her eyes locked on the princess's gentle expression. General Hadley clenched his jaw as reports flooded in. He hated what he saw. Not because it was wrong, but because it didn't fit his plans. "I don't care how peaceful she looks," he growled. "She's still a weapon, and he's just a civilian." But no one listened. Not anymore. Something greater had started unfolding. Inside the chamber, the princess placed the glowing pendant on the floor. "I have never removed this since the day they bound it to me," she said softly. "Now that it's off, I feel like I can finally feel the world without fear." Cale nodded, his voice low. "Then feel this. You're safe here." She closed her eyes. Her breath slowed. Her glow softened to a calm shimmer like candlelight. Around her, the death field no longer spread. It stayed within her skin. Controlled, peaceful, she looked at Cale again. "You are the first person I have met who doesn't see me as a weapon. Or a curse. Just someone." Cale smiled, a real smile this time. "That's all you are to me. Someone who deserves more than silence and fear." For a moment, her golden lashes fluttered like a child hearing kindness for the first time. She walked closer until her forehead touched the glass. He leaned in. 2 only inches apart. Outside, voices grew tense again. "What if she's tricking him?" someone asked. "What if this is just a delay before she unleashes something worse?" Dr. Vaughn turned, her face calm but firm. "That's not what we're seeing. Her emotional pattern has changed. This isn't an act. It's the first time she's been allowed to feel without breaking everything around her." In a hidden part of the base, a secret order buzzed on an encrypted line. "Proceed with Operation Silence," said a cold voice. "Eliminate the subject if the alien shows any attempt to breach." The team assigned to this task was already moving. Unmarked. Uniforms, no names. No questions, but Cale didn't know about the silent kill order. He only saw the girl in front of him, not as a threat, but as someone slowly learning how to be alive. "Tell me your name," he asked gently. Her eyes opened again, glowing softly. "They called me Vara," she said. "But I stopped using it. I didn't think I had the right to one anymore." "You have it now," Cale whispered. "Vara is a name, not a weapon. Not a title. Just a name." She reached up and touched the side of her face as if feeling her name for the first time. "Vara," she repeated softly. I had forgotten how it sounded when said kindly. In the hallway just outside the chamber, the Black Ops team prepared. Their rifles. One tapped a code into a side panel. "Remote override enabled," he said, "ready to breach in 30 seconds." Inside the room, neither Vara nor Cale noticed. They were focused only on each other. Cale sat down on the floor, crossing his legs. "Do you ever wish you were someone else?" Vara nodded and mirrored him. "Every day, until now. For the first time, I don't want to be anyone else. I just want to be me, Vara, with you." The breach light above the chamber turned red. The red light above the chamber door turned solid, and a soft mechanical click echoed through the walls. Vara's golden eyes flicked toward the sound, and Cale noticed her expression change. Her body didn't glow brighter. She didn't panic. But her eyes became focused, sharp, trained. She knew what was coming. "Someone's coming," she said. "Not the ones who care. The ones who fear." Cale turned his head just in time to see a flash of movement behind the tinted glass. A shadow passed across the outer hallway, then another. They weren't scientists. These were soldiers, fast, quiet. Armed. Vara stood up slowly. Her glow didn't flare. She didn't go back to her deadly form. Instead, she reached down and picked up the glowing pendant she had taken off earlier. Her fingers wrapped around it, but she didn't put it back on. I won't be their weapon again, she whispered. Kale stood beside her. Then don't. Just stay here. Let me talk to them. She looked at him like he was the only thing in the galaxy that still made sense. They won't listen, she said. But I will stay. Because I trust you. Outside, the Black Ops team stopped at the final door. Breaching in 10, said the leader. They activated the override. Gears turned. Pistons hissed. Inside the lab, Dr. Vaughn's screen flashed red. They're forcing entry, she said. They're going to kill them both unless we stop it now. General Hadley gave no command. His arms were folded, face unreadable. This is insurance, he said. If that thing lashes out, we end it. Vaughn slammed her fist on the console. She hasn't hurt anyone since Kale entered. This is murder disguised as protocol. The chamber door slid open with a heavy mechanical groan. 4 armored soldiers stepped in with rifles raised. They moved in a V formation, fast and silent. Vara did not move. Kale raised both hands and stepped in front of her. She's not attacking. Don't shoot. The lead soldier's visor glowed red. His weapon didn't lower. Step away from the subject, he ordered. Kale didn't move. His voice was firm. She has a name, Vara. She surrendered her weapon. She's calm. If you fire, you'll prove every fear she has about us is true. There was tension in the air, so thick it almost buzzed. One of the soldiers shifted his grip slightly. Vara raised her hand a few inches, not to strike, not to defend, just enough to say she was watching, waiting. Her glow stayed soft. Her power held steady. Dr. Vaughn's voice cut through the speaker system. Stand down. This is a direct order from Science Command. Subject is stable. Repeat, stable. The lead soldier hesitated. Then his weapon lowered half an inch. But the man to his right didn't wait. His finger twitched. The rifle fired. The shot hit Kale in the side as he turned to shield Vara. He stumbled back, gasping, clutching his ribs. Vara didn't scream. She didn't glow brighter. She caught him before he fell and held him gently in her arms. The glow from her skin barely touched him. It didn't burn. One of the soldiers shouted, "Cease fire! What are you doing?" The one who fired looked stunned. I didn't mean to, reflex. I thought she moved. Vara looked down at Kale, her face unreadable. You risked your life for me, she said. Even knowing what I could do, I knew you wouldn't hurt me. Kale breathed. His hand touched her wrist. His eyes never looked away from hers. I trust you, even now. Blood stained his shirt, but his grip was strong. Vara stood, lifting him with one arm. Then let me protect you for once. She walked forward with Kale in her arms. The soldiers raised their weapons again but didn't fire. Something in her face stopped them. Not rage, not fear, just unshakable purpose. Her voice rang out clear. If you shoot again, I won't fight you. I'll break everything to protect him. No one moved. Asterisk. No one fired again as Vara stepped forward with Kale in her arms. His breathing was shallow but steady. Her golden glow dimmed even more, as if she was pulling her power deeper inside. The soldiers didn't lower their weapons, but they didn't shoot. Fear still hung in the air like thick fog, but so did something else. Doubt. She didn't look at them. Her eyes stayed on Kale. His head rested against her shoulder. One of his hands gripped her dress near the collarbone. You're not burning, he whispered. Still not burning. She gave the smallest smile, more pain than peace. Then I'm changing. The man who fired took a step back. He looked down at his weapon, then at Kale. I didn't mean it, he muttered. I swear I didn't mean to hit him. Vara said nothing to him. She didn't have to. The others saw her silence and understood its weight. She wasn't full of rage. She was full of choice. And she chose not to destroy. In the observation room, Dr. Vaughn slammed her fist on the emergency. Override panel. Lock the breach team out now, she ordered. They've done enough. Technicians scrambled to obey. General Hadley reached for the control, but she caught his wrist. You've made your move. Now it's my turn. She opened a direct channel to the chamber. Her voice echoed through hidden speakers. Vara, I'm sorry. You were never supposed to be attacked. You're not a prisoner anymore, and you don't have to stay there. I'm opening the door. You're free to choose what comes next. There was a hiss. A pop, then the heavy door. Behind Vera slid open slowly. The chamber lights dimmed. The shimmering barrier across the glass turned off. No alarms. No countdowns. Just silence and space. Vara looked toward it but didn't move. Her focus was still on the man in her arms. Is this real? She asked softly. After all this time, is this freedom? Kale looked up at her with tired eyes. It's not just freedom if you're alone. Come with me. Live with us, not as a weapon. Just as you. She turned toward the open door. The soldiers stepped aside slowly, forming a path. Their hands still held their weapons, but their fingers stayed off the triggers. She carried Kale through the chamber like he weighed nothing. Her feet were light, like she had forgotten how to walk in peace. As she stepped out into the hallway, something shifted. The entire base felt it. The pressure in the air faded. The tension dropped. Lights flickered back to normal. For the first time since her arrival on Earth, there was no death in the room, no energy spikes. Just quiet. Dr. Vaughn met her at the hall's edge. Her white coat was stained with sweat and dust. She didn't speak right away. She simply looked at Vara and then at Kale, who blinked weakly but managed to smile. He needs help, Vara said. Not just healing, he needs to be heard. He was. The first one to listen. Vaughn nodded. We'll do everything we can. But what about you? Where will you go? Vara lowered Kale into the arms of a nearby medic who handled him gently. She looked around. The walls, the lights, the humans. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of being seen. I don't know yet, she said. But I want to find out. Without chains, without orders, without killing to be understood. The medic turned and started carrying Kale toward the medical bay. Vara followed 2 steps behind, not as a prisoner, not as a target, as someone who belonged. One of the soldiers dropped his rifle and stepped aside fully. Sorry, he said. Quietly, Vara paused, then nodded once. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't rage. It was simply a start. A new path for a girl born to burn, now learning how to live without fire, and no one stopped her. The medical bay was quiet, except for the steady beeping of Kale's heart monitor. He lay on the central bed, his side bandaged, chest rising slowly with each breath. Doctors moved gently around him, adjusting wires, checking vitals, whispering numbers. Vara sat beside him, her eyes never leaving his face. She hadn't spoken since they arrived. Her golden glow had settled into a faint shimmer, barely visible in the white lights of the room. Her hands rested on her knees, motionless. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just waited, as if her presence alone would protect him from harm. Dr. Vaughn entered with a tablet in hand. She scanned the readings and nodded slowly. His body is healing, she said. The bullet passed clean through. No organ damage. He'll survive. Vara didn't react. But something in her shoulders softened, just enough for the doctor to notice. We gave him a stabilizer, Vaughn continued. And we've slowed the bleeding. But the real miracle is you. He should have gone into shock. His vitals should have collapsed. Yet the energy from your body seemed to support his cells. His blood reacted to your presence in a way we still don't understand. Vara finally spoke. Then I am more than destruction. I can give life too. Her voice was low. Unsure, she looked at her glowing hand, then at Kale's resting form. All this time, I believed I could only bring death. But maybe I was wrong. Vaughn sat across from her and placed the tablet on the counter. You weren't wrong. You were made to believe that. Conditioned. You were shaped into a weapon. But that's not all you are. Your nature isn't the curse. It's the control that was forced on you. Vara looked down. I don't know how to be anything else. Everything I touch dies. Everyone runs, except him. Her voice cracked slightly at the end. He didn't run. He reached for me. Vaughn nodded. Then maybe that's where you start. With the one. Who stayed? The door opened as a technician stepped in. We're getting signals, he said. Long-range broadcasts. Multiple alien ships have entered the solar system. They're coming fast. It's not an attack yet, but it's not peaceful. Either. And we think they're looking for her. Vara stood at once. Her glow flared brighter for the first time in hours. They found me. I broke the bond. They won't let me go so easily. Vaughn rose beside her. Then we prepare. But you won't face them alone. You're not their weapon anymore, and you're not ours either. Down the corridor, Cale stirred. His eyes fluttered open for a moment. He winced as he shifted slightly. One of the nurses helped him drink water. His first question wasn't about his wound. It was a whisper that reached the hall. Is she okay? Vara heard it. She stepped inside and knelt at his bedside. I'm here, she said softly. And I'm not leaving. Cale gave a weak smile. Did we win? Vara tilted her head. Not yet, but I think we're starting to. He reached out. She took his hand carefully, their skin glowing gently together. The room stayed calm, but the base was now alive with movement. Fighters launched. Ships repositioned. Shields activated. Earth had seen alien fleets before, but never one searching for a single girl. And never with a reason this strange. No one knew what to expect. Vaughn stood in the command center and addressed the council through a secured channel. We're facing a diplomatic emergency. They're here for her. If we send her out, we lose everything we learned. If we fight, we risk war. But if we listen, we may find something no one's ever dared to try. Peace. Asterisk. The alien fleet broke through the edge of Earth's orbit like a wave of silver fire. There were dozens of ships, sleek and sharp, floating without sound. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They only waited, their weapons armed, their presence undeniable. The world held its breath. Inside the command center, General Hadley stood beside Dr. Vaughn as screens showed the growing formation. No demands yet, he said, but they know where she is. Vaughn nodded. They're watching us, waiting to see how we treat her. If we hand her over in chains, we lose more than her trust. We lose our soul. Vara stood near the main window, dressed in simple earth clothes. Her glow was dim now, calm and gentle. Cale stood next to her, leaning slightly but strong enough to walk. Their fingers touched lightly. He looked at her, not with fear, but with quiet strength. You don't have to go, he said. I know, she replied, but I must speak for myself. I was never allowed a voice before. Now I want to use it. Not with fire, not with fear, with truth, Cale nodded. Then speak loud enough that they finally hear you. Her lips curved slightly, her first real smile since the chamber. A global broadcast was sent from Earth to the fleet. No translators, no weapons, just an image. Vara standing in the open, with Earth's skies behind her. She looked straight into the camera and spoke in her ancient tongue. Her words were strong, measured, free. I was your weapon, she said. Forged in silence, sent to destroy, punished when I refused. You gave me power, but no choice. I found choice here. Among the ones you called lesser. A human held my hand when others screamed. He bled for me when others tried to kill me. The ships did not move, but inside, many heard her voice. Some wept, some shouted. Others remained frozen in disbelief. No one had ever spoken back to the royal fleet. No one had ever survived long. Enough to try, but she wasn't a tool anymore. She was a voice. "I will not return to serve," she said. "I will not burn another world in your name. I choose my name. I choose peace. And if you cannot accept that, then you will see what real strength looks like when it comes not from power, but from love." The transmission ended. Silence followed. The world waited. Every ship, station, and screen stared into space. Minutes passed. A single message came from the flagship. 3 simple words in her native language. Then the ships began to turn. She read the message silently and closed her eyes. "We release you." The sky cleared as the fleet vanished into the stars. No attack came, no threat remained. Just the open sky and a world that had watched something impossible become real. In the base below, hands clapped, cheering erupted. Scientists wept. Soldiers saluted. Something had changed. Vara turned to Kale. "They let me go," she whispered. "I didn't think they ever would." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Because they never believed you'd speak, but you did. And now the galaxy knows who you are." She stepped forward into the sun for the first time since arriving. Its warmth hit her skin. For once, it didn't spark a reaction. She looked at the sky and took a deep breath. People stepped out around her, cautious but curious. And not one of them ran. She was no longer forbidden. She was free.